Welcome to the Emotional Release Podcast. I'm glad you're listening. This podcast is for all the people who want a radical new understanding of emotions and want to go beyond psychology, psychosomatics, and uncover the mysteries of the body-mind connection.
But you do not understand. How can you? Something that you have never experienced.
This is Emotional Release, the feeling revolution. Hello and welcome to the Emotional Release Podcast. I'm your host, David Manning, and I've studied emotions almost my entire life. I've gathered experience from working with over hundreds of clients about what emotions are and where exactly they're stored in the body. And let me tell you, there's quite a lot of rethinking and unpacking to do about what is really going on in the body. So, what I'm going to do in this podcast is share with you my knowledge that I've gathered from hundreds of sessions with all kinds of different people about what the meaning of different diseases is and where emotions are stored in the body. This is the juicy stuff that everyone I've talked to wants to know. But before we get started on the details, it's important to understand how I arrived at that knowledge. And it's also important to understand that you have to investigate everything for yourself and verify that this is true. I've seen so many systems that weren't holding up in practice, so I urge you to do the same. So let's get started. So when I was 22, I began the 3-year training as a medical massage therapist. We learned all about anatomy and physiology of the body. But the body-mind connection was barely acknowledged. The understanding went as deep as when the client feels relaxed, the muscles will also relax. That was about it. So when I started working regularly on people with chronic condition, I noticed something strange. Most of them would get a lot better and get an immediate relief after just a couple of sessions. But most of the patients would remain customers and return after 6 months with very similar problems. Now, if you're working in an industry, you need to keep customers. And of course, for me, this caused an ethical clash between sustaining a business and helping society heal. So I started asking my colleagues, the osteopaths, the chiropractors, the orthopedic doctors, and physical therapists, if they get any different results. Surprisingly, the answer was not really. Everybody had returning patients. Nobody seemed to dare to break the system and look for the root cause of disease and illness. Meanwhile, everybody thought they were working on the root cause of disease and illness. So this left a lot of questions open for me. And so this is when I began experimenting. I started to search for a connection between the physical symptoms and the psychology of the clients. I started to ask the clients how it feels when I'm working on a certain area of the body where the symptoms are showing up. So I started probing the different areas, probing here, probing there, and seeing the reactions and seeing if they get better or what happened. And so I did this to hundreds of clients, and slowly the connection between the body and mind revealed itself to me. I started having multiple breakthroughs as clients started bursting out in tears during a session. This was very exciting for me because this was something you cannot fake. And for me, this was proof that the body and mind are intimately interlinked. I began to understand where and how I had to press the body to cause profound shifts in consciousness and evoke patients to cry, feel, fear, or even anger. The crazy thing was, every time such an emotional release happened, the muscles and the tissue under my fingers, which were correlating with that emotion, would magically relax. But not a little bit. It would profoundly relax, as the progress was comparable to multiple sessions. But the relaxation happened within seconds, immediately after the emotion was expressed. So for me, this was a very clear and obvious correlation between the emotion and the tension in the body. And with this understanding, symptoms started to disappear. It was really incredible for me. From there on, I wondered, how far could I take this? Surely muscles, tensions, and even tendons are connected to emotions. But organs, skin, and other tissues? So I began my journey in unlocking the mystery between the body and the mind as I traveled the world as far as Thailand and Australia to find answers. I completed my training as an emotional anatomy consultant in Australia and made my way back home. Then I incorporated the wisdom of Chinese medicine that I had attained from my dad, who is an acupuncturist, to form a complete understanding of how the body-mind system works. With this foundation, I started my work as a self-made emotional release therapist. See, there's a lot of ideas in books and other energetical systems about emotions that I've learned that do not or only partially hold up in practice. For example, in Louise Hay's books, she's a famous author who investigates the emotional background of diseases. She defines bladder problems as anxiety, holding on to old ideas, fear of letting go, being pissed off. This, and I've helped many people with bladder problems, did not cause resonance with aspects occurring in the patient's life, or it was not the exact match for the problem. See, every issue has an exact aspect. Not some vague, maybe it's this, maybe it's that situation. Every issue in the body will have an exact correlating aspect in your life and your emotions, which will only vary slightly from patient to patient. So until the next episode, think about what the bladder could be connected to. I'm going to share with you my view on this later. I was lucky enough that through the work on patients, I could verify what exact emotion is connected to a problem. Because when you press on an exact part of the body and there's no reaction, then you press on another part of the body and there's a lot of reaction. You can get almost scientific in understanding where the emotion is being held. I call this the law of resonance. Here is how this law of resonance was revealed to me. I had a patient, let's call her Lisa, who was suffering from chronic pain and tensions in the upper left arm. Lisa was very unemotional and had problems really connecting to her emotions. Just pressing on the points on her arm didn't connect her with the corresponding emotion. So knowing from experience that the upper left arm is connected to siblings, I ask her, "Do you have any siblings?" "Yes," she says, "I have a younger brother, and I miss him so much." In that exact moment, I felt the tension in her arm release as she burst out in tears. So every related truth that is spoken about an underlying issue causes a deepening of the awareness, a resonance that connects us more to the suppressed emotion. I call this the law of resonance, and it's through this law that I could find out what exact emotional background of diseases and symptoms is. When the tears flow in a person that hasn't cried in years, you can't fake it. You know that we touched the truth here. In the next episodes, we're going to go deeper and deeper into this amazing subject, and I'm going to share the knowledge that I've gathered. Thank you so much for listening. And if you're interested in doing the emotional release training with me to become an emotional releaser and learn how to understand the body psychosomatically and how to actually release the emotion in clients, in people, in family, in whoever, visit my website on emotionalreleases.com/training.